you.
Alrighty. Alrighty, guys. We'll give everybody a couple seconds here to get connected, but what a week this week, right? Nothing like a good helping of powerlessness to get your 2021 started off. Yeah, everybody said that 2020 is going to, or 2021 is going to tell 2020 to hold my beer. Boy, were they were not kidding when it came to that. This is a heck of a way to start, right? All right, so to kind of kick things off here, I guess obviously I'm ready to take your questions. All you have to do is ask a question on Facebook, and I will cycle through those questions and answer as many of them as I can for you. I'm going to try to walk a thin line here because I am aware that you are watching me right now on a platform that could just decide tomorrow that we are not cool and we're inciting hate. So I don't want to lose my ability to communicate with you. But on the other hand, if I don't communicate truth, why are you even listening, right? So this is a fine line that we're going to have to walk today, and I'm going to walk it with you. All right, so we're still letting everybody get connected here. Winston, thanks for being here. Audio sounds good. Good morning. Good morning, Mary, Richard, Roger, good to have you. Mitch, welcome back. Carolyn, good morning. Ron Westman, good morning. Alan. Ron says, I'm not sure what to do, but I feel I need to do something. I'm going to wait to see what the Dems do in the near future. The final straw will be if they pack the courts and add more states. Okay. So let me start with this from a political standpoint. The Senate is 50-50, right? There is no doubt that there are some Republicans that are going to go along with what the Democrats want to do. And that's going to be the case for a little while. So the impeachment thing is probably going to happen. And the goal of the impeachment thing, what was it? Somebody said, what's the point? I mean, he's gone in like 11 days, right? I mean, what's the point of impeaching him? And in fact, the way that the timeline works out, if you impeach the president, you'll actually be voting to convict him after he has left office. So he will be gone by the time the trial is running. So there's a couple things that impeaching the president does from the Democrats' perspective. Number one, I mean, everything is a show. I mean, it's all about media. It's all about keeping their coalition together, and their coalition is unified in one thing only, and that is their despise of Donald Trump. So they're going to impeach him again. The second thing is, if they successfully convict him, he cannot run for president again. As I discussed last week, he would be Joe Biden's age when he's running for president again. I think it would be kind of foolish for the Republican Party to, even if they supported Trump wholeheartedly, to vest all of their hopes into who would be a 78-year-old person that takes office. A lot of things can happen to a 78-year-old person. I'm just saying. Hopefully nothing. I'm not wishing bad on anybody, but let's not think about 2024 just yet, okay? The third thing that would happen is Bernie Sanders' point is that it would provide precedent. So when you say things as a Republican politician, because it won't apply to anyone besides Republicans, we can project whatever results on your words we want to project, and then you're responsible for those projected results even if they don't happen. Anytime you say anything confrontational, anything that someone doesn't like, you could be inciting potential violence, just like what happened at the Capitol. Okay? That's where this is going. So, Roger, I feel you, man. I've gone through all 25 stages of grief here in the last week. The first thing that happened was when they broke into the Capitol, and I think a lot of people thought this too. You know what? I don't really care. The Republicans and the Democrats got locked in their offices for hours because oh God, I've been locked in my house for a year, you idiots. Why would you complain about that? Yes, no one's pounding on my door trying to kill me potentially, Not that any, I mean, they confiscated a few weapons. Some people did lose their lives. But I believe, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but none of the protesters shot anybody or stabbed anybody or anything like that. They were trampling deaths. There was a death from a Capitol police officer who shot a protester who was trying to breach a barricade. I've seen the video of the woman who was shot. Yes, I totally understand if this would have been a protest for some other political movement, that person would be a martyr. Totally get that. Some people on the right think she is. But there's a saying that says the U.S. military is always trying to fight the last war. Everyone's always trying to fight the last war. So we have to go through the stages of grief here before we can get to the hope on the other side, because there is hope here. And this is one of the things I really wanted to do. I was looking forward to the After Schrock today to do this because, my wife and I were talking about, like, where do you go? Like, if you were going to leave, where do you go? You can go to New Zealand. It's not a coincidence that I know the citizenship requirements of New Zealand. But as I'm looking into that, Ronald Reagan's words are ringing in my ear that if freedom falls here, man, freedom is going to fall everywhere. Like, this is the last bastion of freedom. So you can run away and you can retreat somewhere else, some other country, but it's gonna come for you eventually. And that's one of the things that's really concerning to me, is that normal everyday people, like a friend of my wife's literally goes on there like, Republicans are all Nazis, this is blah 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 blah. And my wife is like, I'm your friend, you know me, we grew up together, and I'm not a Nazi. You know that. But I am a Republican. And then a bunch of her friends also said, yeah, me too, me too, me too, me too. And then, of course, she deleted that post and came back with a more milquetoast post, that would be less offensive. And then her friends posted, well, this is a walk back from where you were at yesterday, so that's good. But, I mean, this particular person is not a bad person. She's a mother of two. Really good person. A friend of the family. Still a friend of the family. But if you can take a person like that, who's an intelligent individual, and then get them to believe something as egregious as that, when there is no demonstrable evidence that that is the case, you could honestly make the argument that what we are seeing is fascism. You're absolutely right, but it's not coming from the right. So I got angry, and there's two camps in my brain, in Thor's brain, that are fighting. There is what I call the gray man camp, and this is how you survive in a communist country 101. You keep your mouth shut. You keep your head down. You mind your business. You don't screw with other people's business, and you do as good as you can do. And you accept the reality of the situation. Okay? There's the other side of me that is the part of me that every Super Bowl always cheers for the underdog, because why not? Always wants to see the good prevail over the perceived evil, whatever, the lover of the lost cause, the fighter of the fight. And I had a friend of mine, because as I mentioned last week, when Trump was elected, I was not a Trump supporter. And I had a good friend of mine who actually was one of the electors from Nebraska that went to go cast a ballot for Donald Trump in the 2016 presidential election in the Electoral College. And a lesson occurred to me there. And this was a part of the gray man side of my brain. Sometimes you just don't fight the flow. Sometimes you can stand up as tall as you want. You can be as big of a Ted Cruz supporter as you want to be. But the freight train is coming, and you can stand in front of it or you can step aside. The next day, the next morning, how do you feel? If you get hit by the freight train versus you stepped aside. And that's the decision that a lot of people need to make right now. A lot of people need to make this decision right now. The second that anybody does anything violent, on the right, anybody does anything violent or anything that could be perceived as violent, especially right now, the rules are different for people on the right. Just accept that. They are. It's not fair. It's not right. The rules should be the same for everybody, but they're not, okay? So if the rules aren't the same, how do you take people that are good, decent people who have been fed a steady diet of whatever and have beliefs built on that? How do you change their perspective when you don't have access to an information transmission source? You don't have Facebook. You don't have Twitter. You don't have Parler. You have nothing. How do you do that? You know, I tried to watch Newsmax, guys. I really did. It was, and the same thing with Liberty Daily. Liberty Daily headline, you know, conservative Twitter users being expunged. They're not being expunged. It makes it sound like Twitter is kicking off every conservative person. They're not. Now, yes, they're kicking some people out. Conservatives are choosing to leave Twitter. And when they leave Twitter, it causes the... So you look at, like, you know, Mark Levin lost 80,000 followers today. It's not because Mark Levin did anything wrong. Mark Levin left too. He's one of the 80,000, probably following himself, and he followed himself right out the door. So you see headlines like that on Liberty Daily, and you hear stories on Newsmax where the anchor is like, how can President Trump overcome this disadvantage and emerge victorious from this? You know, it's just like, that's not what I want to hear in my news. Okay? I get it. You got your beliefs. All the anchors have beliefs. Every human beings have beliefs. But in my news, I want to hear what has happened and why it is happening and what might happen next. That's the infotainment part of what might happen next. Let's speculate, okay? That can be fun. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to have a cheerleader rah-rah. You know, I can only listen to Lou Dobbs on Fox Business for so long. It's the Sean. I stopped listening to Sean Hannity years ago because every show is the same show, show after show after show. It's the same damn show every time. Get a new shtick. Rush kept it fresh. Why can't you? You know, and it's like that same school. If you say something often enough, people will eventually believe it. It's the same logic the left uses. That's the same logic Sean Hannity uses. And you know, you could argue he's right or wrong, but one of the conclusions I came to a long time ago is that Sean Hannity will say anything that needs to be said to promote the Republican Party, just like a Democrat will say anything that needs to be said to promote the Democrats. That's politics. He is engaging in politics. He is not engaging in news or entertainment or informing the public or the masses of anything. He is creating a narrative, repeating the narrative so many times that you ingrain it. And now you could argue that that's necessary because the other side is doing it. But I guess what I'm getting at here, guys, is I was angry. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. And then I started to calm down a little bit and I started to think. And I said, okay, what do I believe? And this is what each one of us needs to do. What do I believe? Do I believe it is okay to chase a police officer up a flight of stairs, fearing for his life? Do I feel it is okay to go to a public building and shatter the windows? Do I feel it's okay to burn down a church in Washington, D.C., or vandalize a business, or throw or shoot laser beams at police officers from a crowd? Do I believe that any of that stuff is okay? The answer is no, I don't. I don't believe that. I wouldn't do that. I don't want to support people who do that regardless of their political persuasion. Left, right, center, doesn't matter. Okay, start from what you believe, okay? It doesn't matter what anybody else believes. It doesn't matter if you're on Twitter. It doesn't matter if you're on Facebook. Have a core and know what you believe. And once you know, and I'm not talking about, I believe the election was stolen. There's, after, in the lens of time, that's all going to get sorted out, okay? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, is it okay to assault a congressman because you disagree with their vote? The answer is no, I don't believe that. And furthermore, I don't want to be associated with people who do. Now, the problem we have right now is everyone is so quick to say, "Oh, you're on Parler, so you're one of when the CEO of Parler posted that they were going to be taken down and they'll be down for up to a week." The very first response he got was the Proud Boys account saying, "We'll be right here waiting for you." And I have never actually. I'm not a student of the Proud Boys. I know that the media on the mass media tells me that the Proud Boys is a racist organization, and if you can't find any information about them on Google. You have to search with Duck to find out anything about what this organization actually is. It was a joke between friends at a bar is how it started. So anyway, I guess I'm getting sidetracked here. Know where you stand. Know what your compass says is right. Once you know that, base your decisions off of that. And I think one of the problems that everybody had, including me, is that I let my compass be bent just a little bit in the interest of achieving a goal. And that bend allowed me to bend a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And now that I'm trying to straighten that compass out again, it hurts. Because you literally are saying, well, I can't do that anymore. I just can't. Now, here's the thing. This is where the hope comes in. Once you have your compass straight and you know what you want to do, that is how you influence other people. Because like it or not, people don't have the religion anymore, guys. Especially younger people, they're not going to church. They don't have an influence in their lives that is dictating to them, this is how the world works, this is right, this is wrong, this is what you should do. They're literally making it up as they go, based on the norms that society imposes on them. Which is why you have people like that friend of our family. They don't have a compass telling them what's right and what's wrong. They're literally basing their impression of what's right and wrong off what other people are telling them. And as long as you're one of those people willing to do that on the right or the left, you're a sheep. Now, here's the thing. The world is full of sheep, and it always will be. There are new sheep born every minute. And every single one of us at some point in our life was a sheep. Nobody is born with their eyes open. I listened to conservative radio for years and oh, those people on the left are awful, they're evil, they have to be defeated and completely removed from the political, oh my gosh, it's awful. And when I was a young kid, I was a Bill Clinton supporter because, oh, look at that, all I had was the mainstream media, look at that Bill Clinton guy, he's awesome, right? And then there was impeachment and I was like, ooh, yeah, they're going to get him on impeachment. And then, and I was one of those people. Every one of us was at some point. So now the question is, at what point in your life did you realize that you were a sheep? How did you realize that? Who helped you realize that? Once your compass is straight, you can be a leader. And you're not going to lead the masses. You don't have to run for office. You don't have to do anything major. You just have to influence the people around you. A casual comment, like, hey, I'm a Republican too, but I'm not a Nazi. Maybe you don't even post that publicly. Maybe you just send a private message to that person and say, hey, I was really bothered by that. Really bothered by that. You know that I'm not a Nazi, right? It just makes people stop and check and say, why did I say that? And that introspection is where you're going to get growth, because you're not going to win people over chasing them up the stairs of the Capitol building or putting your feet on their desk. As funny as that picture was. I'm sorry, that was funny. But there are people right now who are literally losing their jobs because they went to the protest. Not because they ran into the Capitol or put their feet on a desk or did anything like that. They were just there. That's why I said, hey, we're looking to hire. Please, if you're working someplace right now, I don't think there's like a mass of people that are going to leave Facebook and Google's data centers. In fact, a former Schrock employee, I just gave him a ringing, he was a good guy, gave him a ringing endorsement because he was applying for a job in Google's data center. So I don't think that there's going to be tons of people leaving on moral principle from those data centers and things. But I do think there's the possibility that some people might get fired. It could happen. And, come work for us. We're here to help people. And that's our moral compass. That's where we're at. So I was angry. And then I was just sad. Because every turn, like I saw the Parler thing coming a mile away, what was going to happen. My wife and I were sitting at Cheesecake Factory having a slice of cheesecake, because Friday night is date night, darn it. And we went out, we had a babysitter, we got ourselves a slice of cheesecake. And we're sitting there at the bar eating our cheesecake because there was no seating in the place, which is awesome. Glad to see people are back out and about. So we're sitting at the bar eating our cheesecake, and the news breaks about Google yanking Parler. And I said, Google just banned Parler. And I checked my phone just to see if it was still on my phone, because the carrier, the Google and Apple can actually remove apps from your phone without your consent that are installed on your phone, that you've installed from their Play Store. But it was still there, so I'm like, oh, at least they didn't do that. And, it was hilarious because last week, I did a segment on maybe I should move to Apple. And I have to tell you, Google just yanked them. Apple's giving them, how gracious. We're going to give you 24 hours on a Friday night to completely moderate all the content on Parler during one of the most explosive news events in modern history. Oh, and at a time when your servers are so incredibly overwhelmed by the number of new people joining that your site is barely functional. You have 24 hours. Clean up your act. No surprise they couldn't clean up the act in 24 hours. Come on. Clean it up in 24 hours. So anyway, so they got banned from Apple. I was thinking, well, maybe I should go buy an iPhone. That's what I was thinking Friday night. This is what's going to make me choose between Google and an Apple and an iPhone. Right here. All Apple had to do was not ban Parler. And I would have bought a $1,500 iPhone next year. You'd have gotten back, but had an iPhone since 2007. You'd have got me back. Shoot. And Kim's like, well, what do you do if you can't get the app? She goes, at least you can go to the website still. And I said, yeah, until their hosting company shuts them down. They wouldn't do that. Amazon story this morning, guys. My video keeps telling me it's interrupted. I don't know if anybody else is having this problem as well, but it keeps saying your live video is interrupted. So anyway, the long and the short of it is, there are people out there who are like you. There are people out there that think the same things as you. Now you have to go out and create more people that think like you. And you're not going to do that by beating people with a cudgel or telling them how stupid they are. If there is ever a time for a Christ-like approach to this, this is it. Let people see with their own eyes what's happening. For example, did you hear that a Democrat state legislator, lifelong Democrat in the state of Georgia, just became a Republican yesterday? Yeah. So in the middle of all this tempest, when it's the most unpopular thing in the world to be a Republican, we got a guy in Georgia who just lost a Senate seat to a Democrat. Winds are changing in Georgia, right? And he's becoming a Republican. So, what can you do? What can you do right now? This is not a system that you can attack at the top. We just tried that with Donald Trump. A lot of us compromised on a lot of things. Remember that Donald Trump had a stack of Bibles? He had so many people sending him Bibles, he had a special room to keep his Bibles in. I'm like, oh my gosh, come on, man. Everybody's kind of forgotten about those moments now, where there was completely, first of all, if so many people are sending you Bibles, secondly, you have a special room to keep your Bibles? You have a Bible room? I know he's rich, but a Bible? You have a Quran room too? Do people send you Qurans? I mean, it was a ridiculous statement to make, right? But I wrote it off. I said, you know what? That's Trump. He says stupid stuff sometimes. He sometimes says things that aren't true or exaggerates grossly, but he's doing it in service to a greater cause. And, you know, he got a lot of good things done that I support and that I like. But I can never say that he's a man that I would want my daughter to marry. Never thought that. Never talked about it either, though, right? I made the choice not to do that. There, you know, gray man, step out of the way of the train, right? Don't get hit by the train, because when the next day, the day after you get hit by the train, you're either a puddle of goo on the tracks trying to figure out what to do next, or you're a living, breathing human being with arms, legs, hands, and a brain that can figure out what to do next. So now we need to figure out what to do next. So what I would suggest you do for the next week is absolutely nothing. This is the time that you get your compass straightened out and that you figure out what you stand for. Stop listening to the media. Just stop. Doesn't matter who gets banned from what or what. You know, are you going to be able to single-handedly help Parler? Are you going to be able to move them to a new hosting provider? That's not a you problem. That's a them problem. Control what you can control. Let them control the rest. Take a step back for your own mental health, because this is crazy. There's people that are literally, they're literally having physical ailments because they are so upset about this. So first of all, take a step back. Take a week. Get yourself straightened out. Next, figure out who you support in your local community if you're into politics, okay? If you're looking for a political solution, you need to start at the lowest of the low offices. You need to start in the treasurer's office. You need to start in the district attorney's office. You need to start with the school board. The offices that no one ever... You got to start with figuring out which judges should be retained and which ones shouldn't. Nobody ever pays attention to those races. They're not popular. They're not sexy. But you have an outsized opportunity to make a difference in those races because they're not popular and they're not sexy. So get involved there if you're political. If you're not political, the best thing that you can do is to show people that people who are conservative, people who value free speech, people who value capitalism are good people. They're good people too. And the best way you can do that is figuring out some way you can help somebody who's struggling through something. Help, you know, it could be financial help, it could be helping through your church, it could be volunteering somewhere. Find a way to give back, to show, not because you're getting anything out of it, but it shows everybody else that there are good people in the world still. Because I think we all need to be reminded of that right now. People on the left, there's good people on the left. There are good, fair-minded, decent human beings that don't want to live in a socialist utopia. They exist. But they're not going to stick their heads out right now and be like, yeah, Trump's okay. You know, mer, mer. Why would you want them to do that right now? No Republican senator is going to fight this impeachment thing right now. A few will. But not enough. He's going to get impeached. Just accept it, write it off, move on. There's nothing that you can do about it. You can write your congressman, you can write your senator, but their election is 2 years away. And a lot can happen in 2 years. Are you really going to vote out one of your sitting senators in a 50-50 split Senate? Are you going to primary one of them? Who are you going to get to run? Have you done that homework yet? Have you straightened your compass out yet so that you end up backing somebody that you actually believe in, who doesn't betray your values in a critical moment? A lot of people feel like Nebraska's got one of those right now. I'm not sure. I honestly haven't looked into it enough to know. That's why I need to take a week to take a step back and kind of take inventory on what needs to happen. But that's where you start. You don't start at the top and work your way down. Start by securing your privacy. This is something that you should do for you, not to hurt Google or Facebook, although if enough people do this, it will. Look at the hissy fit that Facebook threw when Apple locked down their privacy. Because Apple has the ability to lock down so many people's privacy at one time. Well, guess what? 80 million people can lock down their privacy now. There's the other half. Oops. Now what's Facebook going to do? Twitter's in trouble here. Twitter is seeing a mass exodus of people. Who wants to talk to somebody who, like I said, I tried to watch Newsmax, guys. I just, I'm not disagreeing with what they're saying, but the way they're saying it is just so like, if there was a reason to disagree, I know you wouldn't disagree. I know you're not going to shoot me straight. And nobody wants to be in an echo chamber. It's fun for a while, but after that, it gets really, really boring. And that's what Twitter is going to get. Really, really boring. And I'll watch from afar. I canceled my Twitter account, removed Twitter from my phone. I did the things that I asked you guys, I didn't ask you to do them, but the things I suggested, I did all of them yesterday. Got rid of any old social media group. I couldn't cancel my MySpace page. I couldn't seem to find it. But I got to keep Facebook open because that's how I talk to you guys. So Facebook is open still. I never used Twitter. It's not a big loss. I had a Parler account. You can hit me up at Parler today. Tomorrow you won't be able to. Let me get my handle here because I'll obviously use it so much. At T Schrock. It's at T Schrock, SCHROCK on Parler. I never really use Twitter, and I don't really use Parler. So I check it maybe once every blue moon. MeWe is something I'm going to be looking into. We're going to be looking into other social media platforms as well. So the first thing, guys, straighten your compass. The second thing is take a break. Take a breather. It's been a week. For your own mental health, take a breather. The third thing is start local. Start from the ground and go up. Why is it that all the BLM protesters didn't get prosecuted, but all the ones at the Capitol Hill are going to get prosecuted? It seems that there's been a concerted effort to elect district attorneys that are sympathetic to left-wing causes. Huh. Go figure. No one was paying attention to district attorney races. Who is your district attorney? Name them. I can't name my district attorney. I guess maybe I could, but he decided to... They came after him. He was a Democrat. They said he was a racist, didn't he? Yeah, that was in Nebraska anyway. So then that's the next step, guys. You figure out what you stand for locally. Go get your concealed carry permit, not because you're going to carry a gun every day, but because you're worried about the other nut job that's going to carry a gun every day. And, have the permit. That way, if you have the gun in your car, you're not breaking the law. Because any law you break at this point, if you're a conservative, is magnified. It's a bigger problem. You have to be so perfect it's not even funny. And all it takes is a few knuckleheads, and the knuckleheads are out there. All it takes is a few knuckleheads to do something stupid, and then boom. But if your compass is straight, you know that you're not a knucklehead. And you know that you don't support those knuckleheads. And you can shake your head and say, that's ridiculous. And not feel like you're betraying your party. Because you never believed that in the first place. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. Sorry, that was a tirade. But let me get into the questions here real quick. Alrighty. Not Cindy, this is her husband Rick. Good to see you, not Cindy. This is her husband Rick. See, there's a family. They said, we have 2 Facebook accounts. Why do we have 2 Facebook accounts? We don't need 2. We could consolidate to 1 and they get half the information from us. Heidi-ho. There you go. All right, Carolyn, good morning from Round Rock, Texas. There is an update available on my iPhone. Should I install it? Yes, Carolyn, you should. The most recent iOS is a very good improvement. Good morning from Lincoln. January 20th would be a great day for a Facebook exodus. Yeah, it would. Unfortunately, I can't really... I'm conflicted, guys, because I run a business. This is what supports my family. This is what supports the families of my employees. I can't afford to, and they can't afford to have me go off half-cocked and screaming and yelling on Facebook, which is why I didn't post a darn thing until yesterday. Literally quiet, because I was all over the map. I was like, yeah, they got what they had coming. And I was locked in my house for a year. What are you locked in your office? Oh, I was angry. But I knew I was angry, and I chose not to speak when I was angry. Just let it cool a little bit. And now, with a cooler head, I'm looking around saying, this is truly scary. And there are Democrats who understand this is truly scary too, guys. That this kind of if the election went the other way, 5 million votes the other way, or however many it would have taken, this could be happening to the left right now. They would have been the ones rioting in the Capitol. And yes, they wouldn't get knocked off social media, but when they didn't get knocked off social media, everybody would agree that it's time for social media's protections to be removed. This could have gone the other direction so easily. And you know what? I think eventually it will. Because when they don't have the Republicans to pick on anymore, the Republicans are a non-factor, or the Republicans are in a rebuilding phase. Like after George W. Bush, remember how Republicans had to rebrand and rebuild? Not because George W. Bush was a particularly bad president. It was because the Democrats had done such a phenomenal job of controlling the narrative about him that he was the most reviled, hated man of all time. Until Donald Trump came along. Now, George W. Bush, they have him in parades. He's a great guy, you know? So anyway, good morning from Grand Island. Having my coffee and enjoying the show. Good to have you, Roger. Crawled out from under my rock and listened today, Bill said. Oh, gosh. If you're hearing it all for the first time today, Bill, oh, wow. You need to take a Xanax and go back to bed or something. It's a lot to take in a day. How do we break away from the Chi-Com connections that have spoiled our society since 1972 when Nixon Kissinger had the doors reopened? This is a great example, Richard, of controlling what you can control and leaving the rest to somebody else. I don't have an answer for you. In fact, I'm totally not concerned about China at all today. I'm not concerned about inflation either, because what's going to happen is we're just going to export it to China when we lift all the tariffs and everything else, and everything goes back to business as usual under Biden, which is probably what's going to happen. Because they have bigger things to do right now. So, right now, if we don't fix ourselves first, if we don't get our compasses straight, and then start to worry about how we can not convince other people that they are idiots or sheep, but show them why we believe what we believe and let them come to the natural realization over the course of their existence, just like we all did, that there might be a better way. Who came along and told you you were an idiot? How would you have responded to that? Stupid, you dummy. How would you have responded to that? Well, I'm logical. They're not. People are smart. Or excuse me, I said that wrong. Persons are smart. People are stupid. Individually, everybody's smart. That's where you got to make the change. You can't make the change on social media. You can't make the change talking to 1 million people. You're just talking to people who already believe what you believe. It's a giant echo chamber. So the biggest thing, the biggest favor that the left has done for the right is kicking them out of social media. Because it's going to force us all to talk to each other. And there's going to be other people in the room, and they're going to hear how we talk to each other. I had one of my young employees ask me yesterday, I need to start investing for retirement. I have no idea what to do. My family was military. I never really got a financial education. I don't even have any crypto. It's funny because that was what he equated to investing for retirement. I don't have any crypto. So what do I do and how do I start? Well, the first thing is, I'm like, wow. First things first. Let me introduce you to an idea called dollar cost averaging, where you set aside a certain amount of money you put into your retirement fund every period, and you do that regardless of what the market's doing. That way, no matter whether it's higher or lower, you're either buying a premium or you're buying at a discount, and it averages out over time to be a good deal. The second thing is to set that number as high as you can without being a number that you can't maintain on a regular basis, especially if you're a little bit older. You got to set it higher. If you're younger, you can set it lower and you can get away with it. Introduced him to all this. He had never heard of dollar cost averaging before. So the education that people are getting in the real world, guys, they're not getting that from Facebook. They're not getting that from Twitter. They're getting that from talking to people. And you know what? People who have something to lose are typically much more conservative about how they use it. right? If you're broke and you can't pay your rent, and the only thing keeping you in your house is the eviction moratorium that's still in effect, by the way. I'm glad I'm not a landlord. Well, if that's the case, why wouldn't you vote Democrat? Why wouldn't you vote for free stuff? Why not? Yay, more checks. When you're the person paying the checks, you stop and think about, why are we doing this? So the best thing that we can do to move people into the realm of being a little more thoughtful about their actions and their deeds is to make sure that they have something that they can lose. And I'm not saying that from a control perspective. I'm saying people without hope or people without resources, I guess, don't value having resources. Because they've never experienced what it's like to have money left over at the end of a pay period. To have something to save, to be able. Some people, I had another employee talk to me about. I literally asked her, "Why are you not doing the 401k?" And she gets teary and she says, "I just can't afford it. I can't afford to take 10% of my paycheck out. I know I need to, but I can't." And there are people in the world that are like that, that are in that situation. We have single moms working for us. That's a struggle. A single mom whose son was assaulted in a public school. That's one of my employees. She's a Joe Biden supporter. Her son was attacked by a mob. It's one of those things where you're not going to convince people that their beliefs are wrong by telling them their beliefs are wrong. You just aren't. So I don't know how we break away from the Chi-Com connections, blah, blah. I mean, Richard, it's above my pay grade, and honestly, I have no capability of doing that. The only thing I do is I have a radio show and I can tell you what's happening so that you know what's going on and you can make a choice with what you buy. That's about the only thing that I can do. So I'm doing what I can do, and everybody does their part. Another impeachment doesn't really unify the country. Well, Brian, the point is not to unify the country. The point is absolute nuclear winter victory. Victory. That's the point. And that's one of the things I was thinking about a lot, because that's one of Rush Limbaugh's points that he's had for a long time. The left isn't to be compromised with. The left isn't to be reasoned with. The left is to be defeated. Because that's how they feel about us. When you have a political opponent who is completely focused on your absolute destruction and your non-viability as a human being, you can argue that there is a moral obligation to resist that, to fight that, and that the natural culmination of that fight is a Donald Trump. Why do you think so many people liked him? He finally fought back, and he fought back successfully a lot of the time. Was it pretty? Oh, no. Are the Democrats pretty? No. None of this is pretty. This is all ugly. This is all so ugly. Do you want to be a part of the ugliness? Or do you want to be an alternative? When finally somebody looks up from their nuclear ash falling from the sky winter and says, this is what we fought for? Don't you want to have something shiny over there that they can look at and say, I want to be there. I want to be that. I want to be in Texas. I'm just kidding. Caroline, I did that for you. All right, I've used ExpressVPN for a while. I really like it. The smart location feature picks the best location for you. I use Thunderbird for email. For Thunderbird to work correctly, I had to use split tunneling. Thunderbird does not go through a VPN. Yeah. I was really disappointed with Mozilla. Mozilla basically came out. Mozilla doesn't control anything. Their products are all free. They get the money from Google, which is probably why they had to come out and say that basically they called for even further policing of content on the internet. That's your privacy-focused browser wants to police what you say. They don't have the power to do it or the ability or the money to do it, but they think that other people should do it. I think it may have been a Me Too move where you're going to see a lot of that, a lot of Me Too moves. Like, yeah, we're with you on this. And then as cooler heads prevail, you're going to see things settle back down a little bit. So that's why I'm saying take a week off. You're just going to, there's no point in riding that roller coaster right now. Unable to see the live stream on the phone without the Facebook app? Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not sure. The feed should be the same. I'm watching it on a computer browser right now. I'm reading these comments. Thank you for the eloquent way you deliver free speech. I had to read that one twice because I thought, are you being sarcastic? No one's ever described me as eloquent. Woo! Woo! Vapors. Good morning, Dave from Iowa. I can live the Dems controlling the White House, Congress, and the Senate, but the Dems make it so we can't change anything in the future. The country has no hope. There has to be hope. That's the thing. I'm not so willing to concede thought, right? So the Democrats do control the House, but they control it by a smaller margin than they did when they started. The Democrats do control the Senate, but it's a 50-50 split. The Democrats do control the White House, but they didn't win by a landslide. Anyone that reads this as a blue wave mandate election, they had to win the Senate in a runoff. And they almost had to do a second runoff. I mean, that's how close it was. If they're, and now that's what this Capitol thing, that's what this riot on the Capitol did for them. This was the biggest blunder that anyone on the right could have made. Assuming that someone on the right did make it. Again, I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theories about it, but this allows them to go further than they would have naturally been able to go. This helps them keep their coalition together. The only thing the Democrats are focused on right now is keeping their coalition together, and it's going to cause them to reach really, really, really far. Like cartoonishly far. And the further they reach, there will always be a base of people that are like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But the further they reach, there's going to be those people in the middle that are like, I don't know. And there's going to be those senators and those congressmen that have to go back home to their constituents. And there are going to be protests at their, I mean, think like Obamacare. That's what it's going to be like. For better or for worse, Trump's not going away. And people who support Trump aren't going away either. So this has to transform into something that is productive. And if Trump can't run again, or isn't going to run again, or is unable to run again for whatever reason, health, politics, whatever, we have to make sure that we're creating an environment that is a positive, attractive environment that's going to bring people in. Because the more negative one side gets, and we've all seen that. Like literally, I told you about the conversation my wife had with a friend of hers from high school, where basically, how long have you volunteered? How much have you volunteered this year and tried to change the world in your community? Literally, her pastor jumped on that thread and said, "We haven't seen you volunteering at all at the church this year. This would be a great year to break the seal and start something to change the world right here locally." And she was so mad. She was angry. You don't know me. None of you know me, know what I do and how much I volunteer. Your pastor does. He's kind of there too. It's one of those things where, you're going to get back out of this life what you put into it. And you can sit here and be despondent. There are lots of reasons to be despondent. You can be unhopeful, depressed, upset about whatever. You can choose to do that, or you can choose to live your life, love your children, love your grandchildren, love your country, and know that you're doing everything within your power to change the situation for the better. You can't beat yourself up that you can't change things that are not in your power to change. That's just silly. Some people do have the power to change bigger things, and they will. Let me give you an example. So, what did we do before social media? How did we talk to each other? There was email newsletters. Remember that? There were chat rooms. We could go to the chat rooms and we could do email newsletters and things like that. And there was a few websites and bulletin boards and electronic bulletin boards and stuff like that. You talk to people at work. You talk to people at social functions. You got together with people, things like that. That's what we did before social media. No one stopped to ask, what are we going to do after social media? All things end. Social media is a mature industry now. There's only so many ways you can share a video or share a comment with other people. You got two monopolistic companies that are literally running the table right now. So, how do you change that? How can you possibly fight back when they control the internet, when they control the hosting company, when they control the hardware, when they control the software, when they can remove the app from your phone? How do you fight that? Well, Bitcoin is up again this week. Just throwing that out there. Bitcoin is based on a technology called the blockchain. And the blockchain is basically a public ledger. Once something goes on the blockchain, it cannot come off the blockchain, ever. It is permanently there for all time. There's no takebacks. There's no mulligans. It's there. Imagine a social media network run on a blockchain. Another feature of the blockchain is the blockchain can be downloaded by anybody and maintained, which means you can have millions of people around the world downloading the blockchain, and that means nobody can change it. No one person can go change the blockchain because so many people have it downloaded it wouldn't agree. Imagine a technology that would allow you to have social media capabilities without actually having to go to a social media website at all. What if there was no way to police the content because there was no way to shut it down? It'll happen. Someone's going to create a blockchain social media company. And when they do that, they'll tell you, we're going to remove the apps from your phone. We're going to do this. We're going to make it, we're going to take their website down. We're going to do all this other stuff. But the thing is, the blockchain has all the data. Anybody can look at it with a blockchain viewer. Everyone will create a blockchain viewer. This is why governments will never be able to ban Bitcoin. You might be able to ban changing Bitcoin into US dollars, but you can't ban Bitcoin. You can't do it. You just can't. Too many people are running it around the world. You can't. To ban it, you got to ban it from North Korea. You got to ban it from Iran. You got to ban it from China. You got to ban it from Russia. You got to ban it from the U.S. and New Zealand and Africa. You can't do it. It will always be here. So there is hope, guys. There is technology out there that can work in favor, but the current tech has to have a vulnerability. It has to have a reason to be replaced. Let them give us that reason. Let it happen. It's their own downfall. I find it curious there were no counter-protesters at the rally. No Antifa, no BLM. Maybe they decided to stay home. Yeah. Who do you think was protesting, Keith says. 10 years ago, I started the Libertarian Party with a few others because of the old parties looked the other way. There are currently 18,000 registered Libertarians in the state. Much easier to register as a Libertarian now than to go to New Zealand. Yep, and I would lose 50% of my voice, Gene. I don't get to decide who's a Republican primary because I understand there's a Libertarian Party and I share those views. How many Libertarian candidates have we gotten elected in Nebraska? And it's one of those things where I'm not quite ready to jump off the bandwagon I'm on because at least the bandwagon that I'm on's got 3 wheels and we can drag that axle through the dirt with enough oxen. That I'm not knocking it. Like I said, I know Sean Hannity's a Libertarian. Like I said, my wife and I both have a lot of Libertarian views about things. With that said, I'm not sure that running to a third party is going to solve the problem. I think it's actually going to make it worse. That is, unless the Democrats also fracture, which is completely possible. If the Republicans fracture into a third party where you've got the Republicans and the Libertarians, the Democrats could actually fracture into the Democrats and the Socialists. Because the only thing keeping them together is the fact the Republicans are together. The only thing keeping the Republicans together are the thing that the Democrats are together. But if the Democrats have already won and erased all hope for future Republican victories, why not split off to a Libertarian Party? So this is a lot of... these are the thoughts rattling in my head, Keith. And Gene, I'm with you. I'm with you. But I want to be calm and reasoned about why I'm doing what I'm doing and think it through really carefully, because the decisions that we make right now are going to shape things in the future in an outsized way. Keith, Thor Limbaugh. Yeah, thank you for the compliment, Keith. Not quite. BLM and Antifa, they didn't have a visible presence because they needed every one of them to infiltrate Trump supporters. I'm still a libertarian since you enlightened me. Too much crap going on between Democrats and Republicans to get anything done for us to move forward. That's the thing. Bill, we don't need to move forward. We need to move backward. That's the whole point of the Libertarian Party. We need to stop doing things. We need to stop taxing the way we tax. We need to stop spending the way we spend. We need to roll everything back. The problem is when you build yourself a house of cards and you suddenly decide that you don't want to play cards anymore and you want to put them back in the box, there's no nice way to take the house of cards down. It's going to be a mess of cards that are going to have to be individually sorted, flipped, and oriented to be put back in the box. And in the meantime, while we're doing that, every other country on earth is going to be swiping a couple cards here and a couple cards there. I don't think it's something that's going to happen quickly. I think it's something that we're going to have to do from the inside of the Republican Party. And I know that's not what anybody in the Libertarian Party wants to hear. And I know well, how are you going to get rid of all the rhinos? You guys, it can happen. It can happen. These people are not gods. They can be voted out. They can be defeated. They will be. It's got to. Alrighty. Yeah, I got same message interrupted. Okay, very herky-jerky. Bit of video pause, getting interrupted too. It must have had an internet glitch at the radio station, huh? It does pause. Organ music brings a sense of normalcy. Video, let's see. Some people believe you can use screen time function on an iPhone to keep them from deleting an app on your phone, but I wouldn't bet on it. Oh no, they'll remove anything they want to remove. Republicans did gain some state legislators and governors, hold a majority of them across the country yet. So that's exactly right, guys. So people who vote in local elections, the mega, okay, if you believe there's mega fraud going on, they're not mega frauding a local state senate race or a legislative race, local race, or a local city council race. That's too micromanaging. That's too much. We got to save it for the biggies, the federal stuff. That's what we want control, the federal stuff. Meanwhile, if Republicans can get control of enough state legislators and houses and things like that, guess what? We got a census coming out. There's going to be redistricting. Guess what's going to happen in the next election 2 years from now? We're going to have completely redistricted districts that are going to favor Republicans in those states. Who does the redistricting? Who is on the committee that does that? That would be a good thing to find out right now in your particular state. Find out who is going to be doing that, because that's the person who's going to be writing the ticket for the future. That's the person who's going to decide who gets elected where. New York, California are going to lose seats in the House. If we have the right leader with a straight compass and a good idea, think Newt Gingrich contract with America kind of good idea. The cards are all set for an epic Republican wave in 2 years. This protest badly damaged that. It's not irreparable. Time is time in politics, but it's going to be harder now. Where I made a hard task harder. First rule of getting out of a hole is stop digging. Okay. Sorry, I am meeting folks at Memorial Park at 2 today to set up a march to recall the steel. All are welcome. You know, Wesley, that's the thing. If you want to go march, and there's people who want to march, and I just don't want you to. You can all get together and you can all agree and you can feel good about it, but at the end of the day, all you've done is trampled some grass. That's it. What was accomplished at the Capitol? We actually lost even the Kabuki theater of the objections in the 2 hour, 2 hours of debate and where we were going to hear about all the evidence that was collected everywhere, that no one that was how everyone in the mass media was going to hear about the evidence that was collected from the steal, was from that protest, or from the protest of the Electoral College votes by senators and congressmen. That was the whole reason to do that, because everybody knew that they weren't going to get a 10-day pause for an investigation. Everybody knew there wasn't going to be any slowing down the Electoral College vote. The cake was baked. Biden was the president. Every single Republican up there knew that that was the case, which is why Ted Cruz was arguing, we need to do this so the American people see the evidence, so that they understand what happened. And what the Capitol Hill protest did was shut that down. That was how we were going to get past the censors. That was how we were going to force the mainstream media to cover it. Gone. So, that's the thing. I'm not opposed to anybody. You want to march, march. Wesley, I'm with you, buddy. But I'm done doing things that don't get results. I'm just done. 100 viewers, yeah. Oddest thing happened. I started doing taxes on H&R Block online, and one of the first screens asked if I purchased or received any virtual currency last year. Yep. Gave up on Twitter. It doesn't matter who you vote for in the system. In the current system, they're all corrupt when they become elected. Well, if that's the case, then you probably should leave, right? That's literally the conversation my wife and I had. Like, do we need second citizenship somewhere? Because if you believe that the system can't be fixed, at that point, once you realize and you believe that the system can't be fixed, cannot be fixed, there are only two options. Well, I guess there's three. You could do nothing and just like, oh, well, Homer Simpson it. No! Drink a Duff and call it good. You can leave, or you can have a violent, bloody revolution where people get killed. And if you lose, you get killed. There's a lot of people that are willing to march and walk and do things. I don't know how many people are willing to get killed. And I don't know how many people want to kill other people. That's not the solution here. I don't think we're at that point. I don't think we're anywhere close to that point. They make their own laws for the future of power and greed. Absolutely right, James. How do you change that? You have to get people from the grass coming up. This is like Al Capone, right? You don't beat Al Capone without Elliot Ness. You don't. We need an Elliot Ness. We don't have one right now. We have political animals, which you kind of have to be to get where you're going, which means there's going to have to be some compromise along the way, which is why when anyone gets to Washington, there's no such thing as a clean shirt anymore. And even if you do have a pure clean shirt when you get there, we'll make your shirt look dirty. We'll throw enough mud at you that there's no way you'll be clean. You won't look clean anyway. That's all that matters. So what I'm suggesting, guys, is it's not enough to go say, we need to get we need to elect a Republican governor, or we need to elect Republican legislators. No, you need everyone in the county to be of like mind, whether they're Republican or Democrat, that the rule of law is applied equally to all. We need to have these basic things we agree on. Otherwise, we're going to get more capital stuff. So you have to sit down and literally say, if you're somebody who's into political organizing, which I've thought about it, guys, I can only do so much. And so I'm just like, you know what? I don't have time to sit down and try to orchestrate this. But if you had somebody in that arena that sat down and said, these are all the elected offices in the state of Nebraska, all of them. Excuse me. We normally don't look at this office over here, but how do we get that office with somebody in it that we want, who's going to rule in a fair and equitable way? For dog catcher. That's where it starts, at the dog catcher's office. Because those offices are the places where young people get elected, young politicians get elected, and they learn the ropes. So if we follow them long enough, maybe we can keep them relatively untouchable. I don't know. I'm not saying I got all the answers, guys. I'm just saying I know where to start. I'm old enough to remember when there were just 2 viewers. Thor, sure, we fully understand you having to stay on Facebook, but we can limit our access on the social media. Absolutely. Thor, been in Florida, been on the Florida Trail for the last 2 weeks, knew nothing that was going on until Friday. Oh, Bill. Oh, Bill. Wow. That's a shocked face right here. That's a wow face. I'm sorry, man. Big tech acts like China. Power is power, guys. They have power. China has all the power. Big tech has the power right now. The people are supposed to have the power. So that's going to have to change somehow. Don't think for a minute that Democrats are going to let somebody else keep the power. Just watch it. This is going to be a wild ride for 2 years. I think most people on here enjoy discussing political issues with you. Provide another angle about it. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, I really try to keep the politics to a limit because like I said a long time ago, you don't make any friends talking for or against Donald Trump. You just don't. You're always alienating half your audience. But you can't talk about what's going on right now without talking about politics. Ronald says he heard $500 million was spent on 2 seats from Georgia, $450 million from out of state. Yep, that's right. Morning, Dennis. The rhinos are the Republican Party. There are libertarians who run under the Republican name. Yep, that's true. I would like to see a constant updating site that lists who the rhinos are, Ronald says. So like we could call it rhinolist.com, and then like they could be a meter, like a rhino meter, and it could have like a horn, and the horn goes up or down depending on how rhino somebody gets. Like, who's going to be the arbiter of who the rhinos are? This is where we always get in trouble, guys, because it's just another piece of power. So who controls who the rhinos are? This is the thing. We're not going to get ahead by calling each other names. We need the rhinos. They need us. Neither one of us either understands that right now. But we do. We need each other. We need the Democrats too. So how do you go about taking somebody and showing them that the way they're doing things isn't going to work going forward? Calling them rhinos doesn't do it. Makes you feel better, makes me laugh, but but you know, it doesn't make Mitt Romney love you anymore. You know? Not that I'm saying Mitt Romney's a rhino or anything. Alrighty, let's see. Serious question. Do you think the country has gotten to the point where brother would shoot brother? Well, no. I wouldn't shoot my sister yet. I haven't thought about that yet. I don't think we're there. I don't think we're anywhere close to there. Guys, this is a manufactured division. Don't forget that. This is a couple companies making it seem like the country is divided on a political scale. How many people do you know that don't care about politics at all? They literally have no idea what's going on in the world, and they just don't care. Where are those people? Like, do you think that they're on Joe Biden's side or Trump's side? No, they just don't care. They're currently the sheep. They don't care. They're being shepherded along. Our job is to wake them up. Kindly, gently. No one likes to be thrown a bucket of cold water on their face to wake up. And probably, like I said, in a very Christ-like way. That's going to be the best way to do it. It's not fast, but it's incredibly efficient. People who come to a realization of their own free will internalize that realization. People who are propagandized eventually drift. Send your employee's child to my school for a free self-defense lesson. That's the problem, Wesley. Yeah. That was one of the things originally. This kid's had a problem for a while. And, this employee came to me once and asked me, well, what would you do if this was your son? And I would tell them, bullies will only fight you once if you fight back. If you don't fight back, they'll fight you over and over and over again. You're fighting forever. The problem is in school, if you fight back, you're just as guilty. You are literally just as guilty if you defend yourself. There is no self-defense in public school. You cannot defend yourself. You must get punched in the face, thrown over a flight of stairs, and incur actual brain damage and not fight back. That's what happened to her kid. It's bullcrap. Start with the school board. My wife said, well, then you have the problem with the administrators and the teachers. Yeah. Guess we got to start deeper, huh? Every layer you pull back, there's another layer. Where does it start? Where does it start? Figure out where it starts in your world and start changing it there. And if everyone does that in their own world, the world will be a better place. I'm not saying you force people to believe what you want, what you believe, because people can be reasonably different in their beliefs, right? So one person can believe that, rich people need to pay more in taxes. And another person can believe that rich people pay 50 or pay 90% of the taxes already. How much more do you want them to pay? Those two beliefs can exist at the same time from different perspectives. Doesn't mean that either one of those people is a bad person. So talk about it. Maybe there's some way we can figure this out, right? Do you think the U.S. government will try to shut down cryptocurrency? They can't. They can't. No, they're going to tax the hell out of it is what they're going to do. Looking into the tax laws, it's nuts, but they're going to tax the hell out of it. And they're going to use it as a revenue source. All right. I am way along. My phone's been buzzing. I'm afraid to look at it to see all the comments on here. But yes, it is time to wrap it up. All right, so solid state drives are on special, guys. If you have an older computer, one of the biggest things that you can do with your tech right now, if you don't want to support big tech, one of the biggest things that you can do is stop buying new products. Make that iPhone last an extra year. Make that Android phone last an extra year. Don't buy the newest, latest, and greatest phone. Don't use the social media platform if you don't want to, or you don't have to. Maybe only use it through a browser. Don't use it on your phone. I love what I saw here earlier with the husband and wife where one of them, we don't need 2 Facebook accounts to keep up with the grandkids. I don't need my own. I'll cancel mine and just use yours if that's okay. I won't post anything anyway. I just like to read the news there. That's what we should do. We should create one Facebook account that's called like Conservative Guy. And all the conservatives, they can all go there. They just never post anything, but you can all read the news there. And then we can all drop our social media accounts. There we go. So I mean, it's gonna be crazy, guys. You're gonna see the pendulum is swung very, very far here. And with pendulum swings, the further they swing, the faster and the harder they swing back. Wait for the swing back. Don't fight the swing. The swing is your friend right now. The swing is going to allow you to come back very, very hard at the opportune moment to accomplish whatever goals that might be that you need to accomplish. The biggest thing here is, and this is really difficult to do. It's difficult for me. It doesn't come natural to my personality, but settle, calm. Be calm. Be oriented on your family and your compass and the immediate world around you. How can you help the people around you? If nothing else, it's a great distraction, right? How can you help the people around you first and then move forward into other things? If you want to be politically involved, definitely be politically involved, but pick something that you care about. If you're passionate about education, pick education. I personally have been talking with my wife quite a bit. I believe that one of the biggest problems that we have in this country, the wealth divide, if you will, which these checks are only going to make it worse, the stimulus checks, because where do they go? They're going straight to Amazon. They're going straight to Bitcoin. They're going straight to all the money flows up, and then as these companies get more money, they're buying up little businesses and shutting down. Amazon's going to shut out FedEx and UPS, and you're not going to get packages from Amazon through FedEx and UPS eventually. Drone delivery is going to shut them down completely unless they decide to do it too. So the world is changing all the time. So how do you possibly exist in that? Well, you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit of innovation. Everything that every kid is ever taught in every school is you need to get a degree and get an education so you can go work for somebody else. No kids are taught that you can start a business. No kids are taught you don't have to work for the man or the woman. You can be the man or the woman. And when you do, please be a good one. And it's not easy, and it's a ton of work. But so is working a job for the man or the woman. You don't get anything at the end of the day for it. You sign a paycheck. You want to change the world? Start a business. That's how you can change the world. I made that decision 21, 22 years ago, and now you're watching me here on Facebook. There's only 67 of you left, so apparently I ticked off some people, but anyway, long story short, too late for that, guys, but, this is not the end. This is not a time for despair. Sit back, watch what's happening, observe. Have like an out-of-body experience. Look at it. Watch it happen, and then from that point of calm, make a decision on how you're going to respond. And it's going to be something that the left doesn't see coming because they don't understand that. Not because they're stupid or not because they're evil or anything like that. They don't understand it because they're so wrapped up in the hate themselves right now that they can't. They're blind. They can't see. They can't see through it. They don't see that they're actually hurting people. They don't see that they're calling their neighbors racists. They don't see that they're setting up an epic pendulum swing back the other way. They think that the Donald Trump was a pendulum swing, and it was, but it was a tempered one. It didn't happen nearly as fast as Trump would have liked. And I'm really, really concerned that we need to have the right person on the end of the pendulum when it swings back the other way, or we could have a big problem later on. All right. Thanks for keeping us everything updated in the world of technology. Feels like it, though. Yeah, Ronald, it does feel rough. It does feel rough. I will give you that. And every day there's another punch. But you know what I did last night? Sat down on the couch and watched a show with my wife. Held my wife's hand, watched a show. Everything was right with the world, right? So go with peace. Now, it's going to be all right, guys. Thank you for watching. Please take advantage of the solid-state sale over at Schrock. It's a great way to push that technology a little bit further along than normally you'd be able to. It's a great way not to buy new tech. And if you do decide to buy new technology or anything, notice I'm wearing one less fitness tracker today. I'm making decisions too, guys. I'm simplifying my tech life as well here to eliminate some stuff. I hear there's some Linux phones on the horizon too. Interesting. How does the phone work without the App Store? Very interesting. Blockchain app, blockchain phone? Technology is what is enslaving you right now, and technology is what you have to set you free. Keep that in mind. All right, guys. Amen and woman. That's the end of the program. We got to run. Have a great afternoon. I couldn't resist that one. Come on.